all three of you turn up wearing a white blazer and no one told me this?
It's very stylish. To lead a league into setting it up as a new co, and to be able to have that opportunity to really create something that already had amazing teams in it is a pretty rare opportunity. So when I was off the job, I took the job. But I had always said, if you ask friends, I'd never work in rugby. But that didn't go very well then.
I was going to say that lasted very long.
Yeah, exactly. Puppet master extraordinaire. Yeah, thanks, Emma.
You know, I just want to make you feel comfortable, but I want more answers. Tell you what, Gaz won't say it if you tell me how many tickets you sold in the final. I'm playing.
No, I'm good. I'm going back to my bridge. Bridge.
Yeah. Screen it.
Bridge.
Well played.
Welcome back to The Good, The Scars and The Rugby, brought to you by our good friends at Vodafone. I am not wearing the circus colours, but in my heart...
You kind of are.
It's a red and white stripes. Well, this isn't white. It's a
Take it.
A linen trouser that is very light because I just came from an island. But our Mo, the circus, you are finalists.
Yes, sir.
Once again. The shiner has come down considerably from the last time I saw you on the TV.
It's come down, but it's really come out, hasn't it? But no, absolutely buzzing. The girls were insane yesterday. Couldn't be prouder.
A joke, right?
They were a joke. I actually didn't realise I'd said it that many times until a few people have told me, but they were. I called Cecilia a physical joke. I called Gloucester a joke multiple times in the most positive way.
No, Cecilia is a physical joke. She squats and benches like I've never seen before. We had her bench pressing me the other day. She's easy as well. Like normally that was quite hard, but she's literally just dead press from the floor, just bang, repping it out. Yeah.
Love that. So now it's West Country derby time in the West Country. Gloucester-Hartpury versus Bristol Bears. The PWR Final next Saturday, the 22nd. And if you are not watching this and listening to it, I think it's really crucial that at this point we need to point out that we have held fast to the bargain, even though it required us going to great lengths, including Mo and Skaz matching completely, looking like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. We are wearing our blazers today because we are talking business. We're joined by the woman who runs the show, not the show, the real show. This is not the mini league. This is like the CEO of Premiership Women's Rugby, known to us, most of us, as the PWR. Belinda Moore, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And you got the white blazer memo.
I got the dress code.
Yeah.
How did all three of you turn up wearing a white blazer and no one told me this?
It's very stylish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's obviously the colour of the season and I didn't get the memo.
It's because we're all English, British, and this is the best it gets. So it's summer blazers out. You're still in the winter because it's 10 degrees and raining, which is fair enough.
The fact that you have a summer blazer is quite depressing.
That's such a thing as well, yeah.
Bit lighter.
Yeah.
It's like having a summer coat and a winter coat.
That's a thing as well.
We have them too.
People put their whole
Do you not
wardrobe.
have that?
People put their winter
What?
wardrobes in the loft, Elmer, and bring down the shorts and vests, and then swap it over when the autumn comes.
Unless you're so she shoved it in a downstairs toilet, can't use it at the minute. Yeah.
It's all just coats.
Yeah.
It's just a pile. Now, we're going to get into an assessment of the year. There is a lot for us to discuss, but first, the Gloucester-Hartpury Final. And this is so important, the moment that you guys have now to make back-to-back history and really cement this team and this generation of Gloucester-Hartpury girls and your place in history. How does this feel for you, Belinda, coming into, this is your first final, right?
It is our first final. So they were great semi-finals at the weekend, both of them, and just really excited to have the two teams, both Gloucester and Bristol, coming down to Exeter in 10 days' time. So yeah, very excited.
10 days. The countdown started. I didn't know it was 10 days. Eek.
How nervous are you?
Not yet. I'll bubble into it. I was really nervous on Sunday. Skazzy had quite a few little peppered messages and phone calls off me before the game. But yeah, not yet. Like we'll obviously settle in, get back into training, and then next week I will be shaking.
It's weird if you're not nervous, though, surely. At that stage of the season, everything you guys have achieved, where you are in your everything, I think it's actually all those things are kind of irrelevant. You're in a final, like you've got to be nervous.
Yeah.
Do you feel nervous, Belinda, about these playoffs in the final? Is there any source of nerves from where you sit?
I think nerves is the wrong word. I'm excited. I mean, it's the end of our first season, so it's culminating to a lot of hard work this year to get us to where we've got to. So I think excited probably. We've got some really cool things lined up for the final.
And now you have a team who've also made history coming into this final. That must be really exciting from where you sit to prove that it's possible to come into the season. Initially, they said they wanted to be a top 4, top 3 team. Now they're in the final. They've done what no one's managed to do in this league.
Yeah, Gloucester-Hartpury have had the most amazing season this year. Extraordinary season. And I think what's also great is to have a team that's never been in the final before in the final as well, because I think that starts to show the strength and depth of the league. I think it's great to have a defending champion in there. It always adds to the excitement, but also good to have different teams coming up through the league. I think that's really important for us.
I think also it's the first semi-final win not at a home ground, isn't it? From the weekend, so I don't think. I said that really badly.
No, I don't
First away semi-win.
Take your time to process. Go on, Skaz. It's just TNT, straight off of TNT. Give it me. Go on.
First away semi-final win.
It's the first away semi-final win that we've had in the league.
Or away team, yeah. I didn't say it very well either. Hopefully we all get what we're going with there.
Yeah, but I think that's impressive as well.
I think anything that shows that it's possible for teams to overcome things that you automatically think, oh, if you've got home advantage, it's pretty much going to be your game. Actually, to show that you can go away and still get to the final, I think is really important.
I think as well being at the Stonex, because Sarries hadn't lost at the Stonex all season.
All season?
All season.
Tough ground to go to.
Because they beat you there, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that meant that they had pretty much a clean sweep.
Do you know what I did notice as well, though? Their stands had gone down and how much that might have affected.
Yeah, so they have to, they changed athletics in the
Yeah.
summer. And it's one of the reasons they can't host the PWR final in the summer because they don't have enough capacity.
Too late in the day, too late in the calendar.
The stadium is multi-purpose, so they need to use it for athletics.
We actually learnt that when we recorded there because somebody was just running around the track. So our cameras were there and we were sitting here and someone was just running around. It's quite funny.
And we were like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, when this is an athletics track, this is also, it's a multi-purpose venue,
Like,
remember?
weird.
It's not just rugby that's played here. We play nice with the other kids.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, the other kind of mini battle within a battle coming into the final that I know you are excited about seeing is Abby Ward and Zoe Aldcroft going toe to toe. Co-captains, line-out leaders. I mean, playing against one another in a game where this is up for grabs. Who'd you rather be on? Whose team would you rather be on? Zoe's team?
I'm going to go back to the beginning
No,
of
no,
what I
no,
think
no,
was
no,
your
no,
what
no,
I think was your
Alice.
question. No.
Who'd you rather?
At the weekend, so a line out happened right in front of us and it was Exeter ball and Zoe just like, as she does, straight up. I think she even caught it. She didn't even bat it back. And at that moment, you guys were well in the lead. I just fast forwarded and I was like, Zoe Aldcroft v Abby Ward. Just the line out, nothing else. Like two brains that absolutely love that part of the game. I just think that, like, I reckon they're already on it. They're already coding each other's line outs. They're already plotting the movement and the plan and the this and the that. I obviously don't understand line-outs as well as those guys, but I can only imagine the work that goes into it. What was the second part of the question?
Who's got the edge?
No,
Between them.
Between the two of them?
Yeah, who's got the edge?
That's like
It was whose team would you rather
choosing
be on?
between a sibling
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, come on. In a final, you only need 1 point to win it, says a South African.
What, and we need to win the line-out?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the line-out needs more than just those two, doesn't it?
Yes.
It needs the thrower and everything else to function properly.
This is like fence sitting
No, I
of
know.
the highest caliber.
You can't make a.
I enjoy,
you can't-
I enjoy the splinters.
Okay,
Yeah,
Belinda,
you
to
can't
be
make
fair
a-
though,
to be
I
fair
do
though,
want her to pick.
I'm saying
Yeah.
you need the side.
all I will say is obviously Bristol's line-out didn't function. I think they were a top-performing line-out going into the semi-finals. And it didn't function as well as they would have wanted it to for all manner of reasons. So I think that will be something that they will be looking at.
And whose team would you rather be on?
I would rather be on
The winning one, surely.
your team, Mo. Obviously, you'd rather play with your best friend.
Sorry, clip that up because that's just made my year. That is the best clip we've got out of all season. Thank you, Emily. In our matching blazers.
Sorry, I still think the dog ashes at the Principality beats
Yeah,
that.
no,
No offense, but nothing's ever
I
going to
mean,
top that.
anything's ever, nothing we get on this show again.
No, nothing will get there. Now, Bristol is the only team that restricted Gloucester-Hartpury to not scoring more than 4 tries. My English has also failed me there. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the only team that we didn't get a bonus point for scoring 4 tries against. However, did you see that game? Can you cast your mind back to that game?
I can't, but I
Cast your
remember
mind
what you
back.
said
Guys,
after the
I'm
game
not
about
even
it.
joking. we went out for warm up, and like you could see your breath. Like there was like this white glistening on the pitch because it basically started icing over beforehand. So everyone's hands were like freezing. Any stoppage, you were like putting your hands in your armpits to try and keep them warm. Couldn't catch. It was so cold, one of the coldest games I've played a part of. So yes, they stopped us playing and scoring, but it was one for the purists. I think there was about 100 scrums.
100?
Yeah.
100
in that game. I don't even know if that's possible, but there was a lot of scrums. And you know those games that everyone's like, oh, that's one for the purists? It was that, because it was just knock on scrum, and then there wasn't really a lot of attacking flair.
Now, when this rematch takes place and it's not going to be -4 and people are not going to be cuddling in the scrum because it's the only place it's warm, Belinda, how's your ticket sales going? Because we've sold a quarter of our tickets for our live show already.
That's awesome.
Have you sold?
It's great to have you down there live, by the way. I'm very excited about that.
How are you doing?
We've had the best ticket sales we've ever had for the final so far, before we knew the finalists, which is brilliant. So hopefully now we know the finalists, another big push coming in the next 2 weeks. So yeah, go out and get your tickets now. It's going to be a great day out. So yeah, we're looking for a really good crowd, and we're really excited. We're not putting numbers on it because no, we're not
I was
putting
about
numbers
to
on it.
ask for numbers.
What's Sandy Park? What is Sandy Park? How many is that?
Sanshee Park.
Ooh.
Huh?
Have you seen that?
What?
No.
Sorry, somebody.
Is this the spin on Queen's
Instagram-
Home for this
'cause-
year?
So that rugby girl was like, because it was Queen's Home last time, it should be Sanshee Park this year. Brilliant.
I love that. No, somebody said to me very wisely, you can't just keep measuring women's sport based on ticket sales. It's about more than just that. So it'll be about broadcast. It'll be about, we're on TNT and the BBC, which is great on BBC iPlayer and website. We're live on TNT. You've been amazing this year. But I think it can't be the only metric by which you judge whether a final's success or not. So we're not putting numbers on it. We've never done, we've got record sales. We put it in a neutral venue. Obviously last year, had huge ticket sales because we were at your home. It'd be interesting to see what we do this year. But no, we're not putting targets on it. We just want it to be a great day out.
Your fans are going to travel then, aren't they?
I hope so.
Surely.
I hope so.
Yeah.
How far is Exeter from
Put it on
Gloucester?
you for get the fans there.
Yeah. We'll
How
try
long
and
is
have
it
a
from?
About
couple
2 hours.
hours? Yeah.
And Bristol's obviously closer, isn't it?
Yeah. If you don't have your tickets yet, go look below in the description. We'll put the tickets to the game, but also to our live show. We're going to be doing a live show before the game. We'll have Skazzy there. She's going to be wearing a suit, she says.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Ooh.
she's got her pundit suit
Finals
ready.
day.
Katie Daly-McLean is joining us. The last time Katie M and I did a show together, I would just like to say, Sale Sharks beat Bristol.
You were the lucky charm.
Well, maybe the two of us together are, the solution. Be nice to us, by the way, man.
Perfect.
And then we are going to be roping in all of our friends. Keep your eyes out on the socials because you'll also get a drink included in your ticket, so we won't leave you high and dry. Nothing there that's bad on the list.
Is that like any drink or is that like a soft drink?
What is it you would like to have?
No, I was just
Madame
curious.
Sky?
Obviously, T's and C's sometimes are important.
Would you like me to
Because
take
you don't want
your order?
you don't want a glass of orange squash on the door, do you? You might want to.
What do you
Pint
want?
of Guinness. You might want a
went
pint of
orange
Guinness.
Squash
Orange
out
squash.
of all the drinks.
No,
in
I
the
was thinking.
entire
I was
world.
thinking of
Do you
like.
want a rock shandy?
What do you want, Scaz?
What's a rock shandy when it's at home?
It's like basically like an Aperol spritz without the alcohol. If that makes any sense.
Is that, no.
No. Okay, never mind. She's like, I can't think that far. No. What is it you would like? What
No, I
is
was
on
just
your
curious.
order?
I was just curious. People tuning in.
If you say a drink, generally it's like an alcoholic drink.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Unless
Get the party
Before
started.
the Twickenham game, I had a Guinness at 11 a.m. So, I mean, we can
Nice.
start there.
up
There
to
you
you.
go.
Belinda?
Necked it in one.
Have
Yeah.
you got- would you like to get your drinks order in so long?
I'll leave it with you when I go.
Danger, danger. Speaking of guest lists and famous friends that we're going to rope in, I loved seeing the allyship from prominent men's players coming out to support, watch, cheer on. Ed in the crowd at Glass, believe Vunipola, Nikisikwe, Kelly Brown at Saracens in the crowd. Both in the crowd watching on, but also in coaching setups, really helping to build a connection, to bring the fans across and make sure that you guys did that really nicely last year in King's Home, Queen's Home, giving the fans something to celebrate. Is that something that is really important where you sit, Belinda, for PWR to have that allyship?
I think it's really important, but I think it's important not across just the men's game, but across women's sport, across all our key stakeholders. I think that, that strength of support is just really important to the league to help it to grow. And I think it's great, the men's players, a lot of them have got very big followings on social media, so it's really important. Talking about what Gloucester-Hartpury did last year, when you did the team announcement, which I absolutely loved last year, I thought it was brilliant. That it is really important because it brings people in who wouldn't otherwise necessarily come to a women's game or watch a women's game. And I think the more we can share it, the more widely we can get people to understand how good the rugby is, then that's just really important.
Do you want to know the first time I ever spoke to Belinda Moore? And there is a point to the story. I will get to it.
Belinda's scared.
I know.
If you haven't joined the dots yet, Brian Moore, who's a very well-known former England hooker turned pundit, commentator and columnist and great ally to the women's game, producer Alma in my real job was trying to book Brian Moore to be in a shoot that I was producing for a client. And I had texted him a few times and it was radio silence. Nothing was happening. This guy was just leaving me on red. And I got this call out of the blue. Now, please keep in mind, I had no idea who Belinda was, what she did. She wasn't the boss of the PWR at that stage. We'll get to what you were doing previously. And this woman called me that I do not know from a bar of soap. So this number rings. I'm like, hello. She goes, hi, Alma, this is Belinda here. I'm Brian Moore's wife. I just want to tell you, I'm going to help sort out the shoot. I know you need him to be somewhere. Can you just give me the date, the location? Also, send us a brief on what you need him to wear. And then I will text you the address for where the car can pick him up. And then we will sort it out. Don't worry about email, just text me. This is all before I said hi.
I was a TV producer once.
Yeah.
I'm good at this.
And I was like,
bit.
hello? And then I put the phone down and I said to Richard, wow, Brian Moore's wife is very efficient. It's really impressive. And he
not what my
said,
kids say.
well, that sounds like you got a dose of your own medicine.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking.
And this is the first time I dealt with Belinda. So, and Brian turned up to the shoot and he was briefed and he was prepped and she checked about what he needed to wear. He was on time, he left, everything was amazing. How much of Brian's allyship and presence in the women's game over the last few years has played a role in why you are doing this right now, and how important a sounding board is he for you in this process of leading this league?
Well, I think his involvement in women's rugby goes back to sort of 91, where he was helping, particularly the England hooker at the time, in training it, and so he's always been part of being supportive of the women's game for a really, really long time. This isn't a new thing, but he also has 4 daughters, all of whom have either played or play rugby, which is not that, it's mainly down to me because at weekends he has to write. So I take the kids to rugby at the weekend, and I spend most of my life on touchlines on various places on weekends. No, actually, he's not the reason I got the job. Actually, he's the reason I said I'd never work in rugby.
Really?
When did you say that?
I've always known. Because people have often said, would you work in rugby? And I'd always go, no, absolutely not. Because I thought, I don't want to be working somewhere where I'm Brian's wife, if that makes sense.
You didn't want to be...
He has he was an amazing player. He has a media presence. He does all sorts of really great stuff. I still have my job that I do. And those two things up until recently have been very, very separate in terms of we both work in sport, but that's kind of where it stopped. I used to work in golf. He's rubbish at golf. So that's where it stopped. But actually, this job came along, and I think there are times in your life when you go, that's just the most amazing opportunity. That's a really silly reason not to do something. So when I was off the job, I took the job. But I had always said, if you ask friends, I'd never work in rugby. But that didn't go very well then.
I was going to say that lasted very long. But that is really interesting. So how do you become the CEO of the PWR? What did you do before? What was your job title?
Well, before, I've been taking it back a couple of steps. I started out, my first proper sensible job was as a producer at BBC Sport. So I was a TV producer for 13 years. And then they moved to Manchester, and for various reasons, kids mainly, and Brian, didn't work for me. And I'd done lots of TV then, but we've got 2 kids at that point. And I decided that working every weekend made it really difficult trying to juggle that when he was working every weekend as well. There's only so many favours you can ask of people. Could you have my kids again for the weekend? So you run out of that after a while. So I decided to try and do something that wasn't every weekend. So I ended up working for Team GB for London 2012, which was amazing. And then I went into sponsorship for several years before ending up at what is now the DP World Tour, was the European Tour Golf, where I spent an amazing 5 years looking after partnership management to start with, and then moved through the business and ended up looking after our relationship with the PGA Tour around the time that Live Golf was breaking. So that was fascinating. So that was fun. And then decided that actually I'd thought about what I'd do after the Ryder Cup. And then this came up and I was like, oh, I wasn't going to work in rugby. Timing wasn't right either, but it was such an amazing opportunity. I was like, they just don't come along very often. To lead a league into setting it up as a new co, and to be able to have that opportunity to really create something that already had amazing teams in it is a pretty rare opportunity.
Why was the timing not right?
Well, because the Ryder Cup was later on that year, and I wanted to work on the Ryder Cup because the Ryder Cup's like all major events. They're quite fun, major sporting events are fun to work on.
So you're a golf producer. You give up the Ryder Cup.
I'd already done one though in 2018, so it was all right.
Yeah.
And you were like, do you know what? I'm going to go women's rugby. Give me a slice of that.
Yeah.
And shepherding, this is the interesting other parallel between your experience and Brian's experience. Shepherding the sport from amateur into a professional era is something that he saw in the men's game very close up. And you are now busy overseeing in the women's.
Yeah, actually, do you know, we haven't particularly, I mean, we talked about that before, just more broadly, just because obviously there were some interesting years when he played, especially understatement of the year, I think that. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much opportunity with this league. And that's, for me, what really excites me. There is so much we can do. You know, if you think about it, we haven't even finished the first season. This time last year, we were still Premier 15s, you know, which I think is mad. You know, it all seems to have happened so fast. You know, everyone now happily talks about it as the PWR, but we were Premier 15s at this time last year. So we've achieved a huge amount in 1 year, and there's still an absolute ton to do. But, you know, it's a good start.
From where you've obviously sat, so like you made that decision, you made the jump across, like where does it fare between where you thought it was going to go and now your reality? Like, is it amazing? Has it surpassed where you thought you'd be? Or is there still so much more that you want to get out of it? Do you know what I mean? Like, where do you sit now? Are you really happy with how it's gone?
Oh,
Are
yeah,
you exhausted?
That too. Yeah, definitely that. No, I love it. You know, people say, well, you know, are you enjoying it? And the answer is, I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love it. Yes, I'm absolutely shattered too. But no, I think we've probably achieved more than I thought we'd do by this point. I mean, that's not to say there isn't an absolute ton of things I want to achieve yet. You know, we want to make sure more money going into the players' hands. We want to make sure we're looking after those that are playing at the club level. You know, we want to look after our players and continue to put them in the centre of everything that we're doing. But we've made some good starts.
Can I go back a step? Who actually offers you this job? Because obviously, as you said, it's a brand new company. It was run by the RFU and obviously the BOD's there. How, just from
it came through
logistical point of view?
Well, it came through a headhunter who I'd actually heard about. I'd sat next to Bill Sweeney at dinner, weirdly for a friend's birthday, and I didn't know Bill knew them as well, so that was weird. And he had mentioned that they were doing all these amazing things with Premier 15s, and they were going to set it up, and there was a 10-year strategy, and we talked about it a bit, but I didn't really think anything more of it. And then a headhunter got in touch with me.
Sorry, what do they look like? Because I'm just picturing
sort of head on a stick.
Do they have a bow?
I feel like you're picturing like a bailiff or something.
No, they're
scary.
Cool. They're very nice people. They are very nice people. God, that comes out right. No,
sorry, carry on.
Not like that. No, but it is also typical. It also make you laugh. You know, very much imposter syndrome kicks in. So you get the job description, you look at it, and you go, "Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't. No, I don't know how to do that. No, that, you know." And luckily, I actually knew the guy who was hiring it, and he ran back and said, "Okay, should we just take a pause? Let's just stop telling me you can't do everything. Why don't you go away for the weekend and write down all the things you've done and pull your CV together?" I couldn't even have a CV at this point because I haven't needed one. I was in a job at the time that I was really, really enjoying. You know, pull your CV together, spend a few days doing it, and think of all the things you've done, and then you do it. You go, "Oh, yeah, I've done that, and I've done that," and you go, "Oh, actually, I've done quite a lot." You know, well, actually, if you listen aside the job description, all right, I could do that, and I could do that, and think I know how to do that. But I do think as women, we naturally go, "I can't possibly do that. That looks too complicated."
Yeah.
And actually, look, don't get me wrong, there are bits that are hard, and there's lots of things that I'm on a fairly steep vertical learning curve, but that's the challenge, and that's the fun bit.
So cool.
You also come from a sport where they still refer to the ladies, the LPGA, the Ladies European Tour, which I have, like, it's one of my major bugbears. My husband works in golf, and it's honestly the things that I feel like the number of own goals that they score and the way that golf still talks about itself, but also the women's role in the game is absolutely insane. But the professionalism that the PWR now is venturing into, Scazzy started asking that question really well. Who hires you and who do you work for, and where does the PWR sit in the greater tapestry of rugby organizations? Because what's different about a competition like this is it's not like working for a car manufacturer or a telecoms company where there's 6 of them in the market. You guys are the body that runs the sport in the country, which means that everyone who's involved in women's game in this country has an opinion on what you do. And there's no one else doing it. So you can't point to a competitor saying, see, they've also...
Actually, you say that. I'm very lucky. Women's sport is very collaborative. And so I talked to Nikki Doucette at the WSL, who are doing exactly what we're doing with the WSL, and actually netball have just been going through it as well. So actually women's sport is really nicely collaborative. So I talk to netball and cricket and football quite a lot, and we talk about the challenges and we talk about what we're all up to. And I think there's a few things where we might actually look not more broadly in terms of trying to get regulations changed in terms of things around business and stuff, that we might actually do some work together as sports. But I think I'm very lucky from that point of view. But who hired me is the RFU, because at the time I took the job, obviously the RFU ran the Premier 15s. They had then made that decision to set up as a new company. So we then began that process of separating from the RFU. So we are now, as of January this year, we are now a standalone company. So I answer to the board and the chair. And my shareholders obviously are the RFU and the 9 clubs that are part of the league. So those are my stakeholders. But we are independent of the RFU, although they are a shareholder as well. So in the same way, we're independent of the clubs, but they will have a vote within what we do. So
when you have your KPI meeting, that's basically all
my chair, Genevieve Shaw, who's amazing. Genevieve Shaw, 1994 veteran Rugby World Cup winner. She has played the game herself. How do you become the chairman of the PWR? Oh, she's a business tycoon. I mean, she's amazing. She sat on the board of a whole load of huge companies. She was at Pearson's. Her business record is extraordinary. So she's more than qualified to be the chair of our board. But she was appointed before I was. She'd been on the RFU board previously, so she then came across to head up the PWR board, and then so she was involved in my recruitment, and so my KPIs are set by her.
Just to jump on that, Sunta and I once we were involved in a review process post something, and Genevieve was the person that we were speaking to, and she was unbelievably impressive. Like, she's just amazing. From a Teams call, when you get a sense of somebody from kind of an hour or so, we both came away from that feeling like, blimey, she's seriously
extraordinary,
impressive.
And she's been incredibly helpful and supportive. So no, she's been brilliant.
I've stopped by your office. It's really refreshing because it's not Twickenham. It's not a stadium. It's in Victoria, and it's really cool, and it feels very fresh and very modern.
Is it orange?
But the wall is. We have an orange wall, obviously.
There is one orange wall, but the rest of it isn't all orange. I was surprised by how small the team is. How many people work for the PWR?
There are 7 employees and 2 consultants and a few agencies helping us out, but it's pretty tight.
What would the Premiership, the men's Prem, how many people would work on that? Does anyone know?
How many?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've never even asked them. Is the honest answer? That's I actually genuinely don't know the answer to that. We just deal with what's in front of us. So I genuinely don't know the answer. But there are stones thrown down the road. We can throw stones pretty much towards them.
Yeah, fun fact, the 6 Nations, the URC, the Prem, and you guys all are basically in the same postal code.
The other 3 in the same, the other 3 in the same office, but there wasn't enough room for us, so we went on our... I mean,
that's
not
probably
their fault.
quite nice, though, isn't it?
Well,
is that by design?
What, there was enough room for us in there?
Sorry, no. Go back to the location piece.
Yes, I thought it would be pragmatic to be close to the rest of the rugby universe. Also, we wanted to be somewhere where we could get people to come to our offices if we were having meetings and be able to get easily to other people's. I also looked at the geography of where all the staff are to make it a vaguely sensible commute. It's nothing worse. Having just come from, I used to work at Wentworth, obviously, when I was at the tour, which was a good hefty hour and 15-minute drive every day. So I was keen that we made a sensible commute for all the staff as well. So we sort of stuck pins in the map and found Victoria.
That's good fun, though. When you start something, you can go, and our office is going to be here.
Yeah.
And
It's been lots of fun, this
And
stuff.
our logo is going to be that one.
Yeah.
And we will go with orange. How much of that did you have a say in?
All of it. That was the most, I think that was the bit where it all suddenly kicked home a bit, was when we designed the logo. And we got to the final, right, this is it. This is what we wanted to look like. And I did love it, and I still love it. But Matta then sent me an email saying, right, you need to sign this off. And
Your agency.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. And I sort of turned around like, where's the grown-up behind me to sign this off? I was like, oh no, I am the grown-up.
That's you.
Oh,
Mad.
okay. Yeah, I like it. Okay. And I was like, if I mess this up and everybody hates it, I'm going to look like a complete idiot. I've just joined this organisation. I've completely rebranded it. Suppose everyone hates it. I mean, I had taken some opinions from people.
Why orange?
Partly because it's not a colour that's, well, it's a couple of things. I didn't want, for me, don't like the purple. Advise leave around Loughborough.
Trust me, Belinda, I'm not wild about it myself.
You're either a purple lady or you're not. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think it's
feel
because
like
everyone...
if you're a purple lady, everything you own is purple. And if you're not a purple lady, then that's okay.
Who are you thinking about?
Giselle.
Have you
I
come
love
across
her for
Giselle
it.
Mather? She loves
I
purple
love
and
her
is
for it.
covered in it.
They
She
have
loves
green
it.
and white kit, and there's now purple threads on
Yeah,
it, and it
because
just
of her.
doesn't go. But she loves purple so much, and
Yeah,
I think
love
you
that.
go, girl.
It's like being a cat lady. You just carry it everywhere with
Exactly.
you.
Anyway, sorry, we digress.
But because everyone was trying
purple.
not to do pink, so everyone went purple, and therefore all women's sport had pretty much gone purple because it's not pink. So it was kind of like we looked at lots of logos and we put hundreds of on pages, and actually those, and there were very few of them, the orange stood out really well. And I do think if you look at social media, it stands out really well as a colour. It pops through really hard, and we wanted to get recognised. So let's go bright and bold, and let's go orange.
It's also African violet for anyone who cares.
Okay.
Nobody does. Nobody does, and no one else. But no worries.
I was like, African what? I literally, for a moment there, the gears, the decoder was working. And I was like, she's going where with African?
She had to correct us because she's now in the Loughborough Hall of Fame.
Now, let's rewind back to white. The RFU is a stakeholder.
Yeah.
They announced in June 22 that up to £222 million, that is so much money, will be invested into the professional women's game over 10 years. So when you look at PWR as an operation, how much of that 220 comes into your funnel and how much other money comes into it?
Well, I'll always say
breakdown.
not enough money because clearly I'd like
Obviously,
more money.
yeah.
I'm not going to start giving out numbers because that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate.
Okay, so if it's a pie chart.
But that's also, is that partly our wages, the senior game and all of that? Or is
I
that,
don't get 220 million every month.
Okay.
Just being practical
Over
here.
10 years, it's 220. So if there's a pie chart and the RFU money comes into some of it, the other income you make, how does that pie chart look?
Depends how much money I make. Is the answer to that question. So we have some funding from the RFU. The clubs also contribute by, at the moment, they pick up the losses because actually the women's game isn't making lots of money yet, and everyone, it's not a great surprise to anyone, but it will do. We're building the numbers, so it will do.
In football, the men's Premier League also doesn't make. Well, Brentford was the only team that made money last season. So
No, so the answer is we get funding from the RFU. Won't talk about specifics. But it's on us. We need to make money. So broadcast, sponsorship, we have commercial targets to hit. We have a 4-year plan, and we'll expand that to a 10-year plan. We have targets to hit and money to make. So.
Is there a projected year to make profit? Because obviously, like everyone, it's no surprise. Men's clubs don't make money. I was just said, obviously, Prem football clubs that we think are absolutely loaded don't make money. It's quite that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I've slightly reserved judgment on that till after 25 because I think we spent lots of time sitting and looking at all the numbers, but we don't know yet what that impact of 25 will look like. So yes, there was a 10. Yes, I picked up a 10-year plan when I took on the business because they did that as part of the planning to set up PWR in the first place. But I've always said that we need to take a step back and look at that again post World Cup because I just think we've no idea what that's going to look like yet in terms of that impact onto things like sponsorship.
Do you dare to dream?
Yes,
Because everyone, obviously, we're hoping to be very involved in it, but obviously everyone is looking at that and just thinking, the potential is.
Yeah, I think the potential is huge, and I think that's really exciting. I think there's still a challenge, and I say I don't think it's a challenge unique to us, but I think there's still quite a lot of that sort of what I call, oh, your women's sport, that's nice. And they see power differently, and they make lots of really nice noises about it, which is great. But we're still being offered CSR budgets, which, by the way, I'm not going to ever knock, but there has to be more than supporting women's sport out of CSR budgets. There has to be more than just telling us we're doing really well. We need to start seeing proper investment into women's sport, and that's still slow in coming. It's coming, and there's some good brands out there that we're having really positive conversations with, but it's still quite a lot of that sort of, oh, it's very nice, but we don't actually want to invest in it.
Me and Mo have the same question.
What is a CSR budget?
Oh, sorry, a charity budget, basically.
Right.
Just something on social responsibility. I can't remember what it stands for.
Community and social
So like big
responsibility.
wigs that offer you a charity budget for women's rugby at the minute.
Basically.
Right.
Or not just, and by the way, not just
Come
women's
on,
rugby.
big wigs.
Not just women's rugby, women's sport. And by the way, that I'm never going to knock any pots of money that are coming our way. That is, the fact that people are prepared to invest in us when we are still, and I think that's the other thing I always have to remember, and I think coming from outside of rugby is helpful on that. We are still a really small sport. If we're being really honest, in the big wide world out there, we're still little. We are going to get bigger quite quickly. But if I went out into the high street out here and started talking about women's rugby, most people would have no idea what I was talking about. So I think it's also, and we do have to keep reminding ourselves in the office sometimes, because we get very excited and lots of great things go on and brilliant plans and everything else. And actually, it is all fantastic what we're doing, but there's a scale to it. And that will change. And I think that's the exciting bit about 25, is that we will suddenly have, as women's rugby, that much broader recognition, regardless of, we all know what we want to happen on the pitch. But even without that, I think it'll give the sport that much broader recognition than it's had historically. And I think that will help immeasurably.
On the topic of CSR money, the Bulls Daisies, which is the Pretoria women's side to the Blue Bulls, have gone completely broken even on putting out a fully pro women's team, which no one in this league is fully pro, right? There's no team that's fully pro. No. The Daisies have managed to put out a team fully pro in the season of the Premier Division in South Africa, and the CEO confirmed to me today that they will turn a small profit next season.
That's mad.
But that is thanks to the fact that there are so few sports doing anything for female athletes in that territory that local government has come to the party in a big way, but their sponsors have also come to the party in a big way. So there are other territories in which the community and social responsibility funding is changing the game for those girls, because they, for the first time in their lives now, can play rugby full-time, which is amazing. And the program in South Africa doesn't have enough money nationally to keep girls fully full-time throughout the year. So money is really important, because it's the fuel that you put in that makes the car go. Usually in any sport, the revenue comes from three places. Match day, which at this stage in the women's game in rugby just isn't going to be a real number, simply because you don't have enough attendance. You can't charge that much money for tickets. So what's left is sponsorship revenues and broadcast revenues. Let's talk sponsorship. You've had Allianz, and they are the part that hasn't changed. Everything else about this league in the last 12 months has changed. The color scheme, the logo,
The teams
even.
The champions.
Allianz has been the consistent one.
Hopefully not.
When you say you want more brands to take women's sports seriously, is this you saying, I'm shopping for a sponsor, and how big a part of your daily job is that?
Well, I'm always shopping for a sponsor. I mean, that's that. I mean, as my team will tell you, I go to the opening of an envelope these days. If you follow my social media, you'll probably have noticed this too. So I'm always shopping for sponsors, because the more money we have in the league, the more money we can distribute out to our clubs, the more that gets into the hands of our players. So, that is really important to us. I have a commercial lead, but, we still talk, we talk several times a day, most days, because we've both got different connections, or something comes in, or somebody rings up and says, oh, by the way, I've had a conversation with X, which then needs, following up and exploring further. So, you can imagine there's a lot of conversations going on all the time. But there are a lot of them are really exciting conversations, and some of them could be really, really interesting.
So that's what you're looking for?
Always. If you're out there, they can get hold of me. Just call me.
Do you have a juicy one lined up for next season?
Got all sorts of things.
Are we open for business?
No, we're always open for business, and I couldn't possibly comment.
Is you being very active trying to find people, or do you find that kind of ever more so it's people wanting to be a part of this? Because obviously, as you've already said, and we sometimes forget when we're so immersed in this world, we are incredibly small in the grand scheme of sport. But there does seem to be a real appetite for people wanting to be involved more in it. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true, and I think Power Differently really helped that. I think it got a huge amount of traction above and beyond what we are, and we're currently working on Power Differently too for next season. So
this was the campaign.
Yeah,
there was the photo shoot you had at the beginning of the season.
Being British and posh now.
Yes. So Powered Differently. Why was that impactful? Why did that cut through?
I think because it showed women's rugby players in a different way to that stereotype that people have in their heads of what a female rugby player is or should look like. Because I think there's still a certain amount of that around. I think we're changing it. You guys are changing it week in, week out. But, there's a bigger, wider audience that doesn't necessarily know that women's rugby players can be these amazing athletes, but can also have extraordinary backstories that are from all sorts of different walks in life. That the big bit for me was that come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. And actually, I think that's just a huge USP for women's rugby, because if you look at a lot of other sports, there is a typical type of athlete that will participate in them for lots. For the right reasons. But rugby allows athletes of all sorts of different shapes and sizes to participate in the sport and be brilliant at it. And I think that's a huge message to be able to give out at this point.
Do you know what I've loved as well about this season is on TNT, whenever whatever game is on that weekend, the little snippets of people's lives that you've got beforehand, and actually getting behind the scenes of what that person is and what drives them, or what their family's like, or where they are from, and all that sort of stuff. I think it's been really powerful.
We know that fans follow athletes, so it's really important to give them those backstories to go, oh, I love that, or that's like me, or to find those reasons to hook them into players, to want to follow player stories, to then by extension to that want to follow the club, and to get behind the club, and behind that then to follow England and the Roses, and to get behind all of that. So I think it just grows that all the time. It's just making people more aware of how brilliant our players are.
Now, when you start something like the PWR and you've chosen your logo and you've chosen orange and you've picked your office location, the next really big question, and this is a question, is how do you get the product to the audience? When you make energy drinks, the distribution method is how do we get the tins onto the shelves where people can buy them or deliver them directly to people's homes? When you look at distribution of your product, what made you choose TNT, and how long is the TNT deal going for?
So I can do that in reverse order. I'm not going to tell you commercial information, if that's all right, because I can't. And
You
won't.
did right. When we go to England and you get your media prep, and suddenly,
I've been probably
is that
briefed,
Paul
mate.
Morgan?
Yeah. Make sure I stay on message. Yeah, he'll stop scanning around the corner.
Can we get the comms manager in here, please?
Can we have some answers?
It's one cough for shut up. Any joking, Paul?
No, we used to get told. Sorry, this is. I'll give you time to think about this one. But we used to get told to bridge. So obviously if you have a question and you don't know how to answer it or whatever, you have to bridge. But I genuinely thought for about a year that I just said bridge and that was it. I didn't realise.
You must have some amazing
interviews. I pinky promised. Well, I never had to bridge because I was always quite happy to answer it. But I pinky promised.
You thought you said the word bridge?
Yeah, and you just sat there and were like, you asked me a question, I'd be like, bridge. And only about
Are you
a year
that kid
later,
when you're doing karaoke and it comes up instrumental, you start singing the word instrumental?
Instrumental. Yeah, literally, I honestly thought that you just said. But obviously, for those that don't know, I'll happily tell you, bridge just means you try and get from that question into the answer you want to say. Fascinating. So the answer that you do want to
Now
say.
that you've bridged on Belinda's behalf, remember you're on my team.
No, I am. I just want to make you feel comfortable, but I want more answers.
No, listen, TNT have been amazing. I mean, they've been incredibly supportive and helpful. They've done loads of stuff, not just the stuff you're seeing on the broadcast, but also in helping us with an influencer program, doing stuff on digital, creating trails for us. I mean, they've been awesome. So they've been a fantastic broadcast partner. They get rugby. There were lots of synergies in being where the men's game was, because nothing else, financial ones as well for us. We work with the same production companies as PRL. So there's some really good, they knew they know their way around what TNT wants. So those sort of things have been really, really helpful. But we've also done the 4-game carve-out with BBC, which is great. And we'll continue to look to do a free-to-air carve-out next year as well.
Carve-out means?
Sorry, 4 games. So we have a deal with TNT that they have the primary contract, obviously, but we can take 4 games to a free-to-air broadcaster. So this year, BBC have shown 4 games, or are showing 3 so far, and 4 with the final on BBC iPlayer and the website. So if you don't have TNT, you can still see some of our games.
I was making you explain it, by the way, for me and Mo, not anybody else.
Okay,
no one else cares about carve-out. And how long is this program or the structure of this deal going to be this way?
I think the answer is we always wait for opportunity. And again, I know I keep coming back to it, but everything does slightly hinge around 25. So we're waiting to hear where the 25 broadcast rights have gone to. So that will be an interesting conversation to have once we know that and once that's been formally announced. So I think, again, it's this visibility for women's rugby that will come next. And would that be that we might look to do more on free to air? Maybe. But also there's financials in this as well. So, where's the offer coming from? As I said, ultimately we need to make money. So that that's also important. So I think it's just putting all those things together and what is the right mix, what's the right balance. And also using our other channels like YouTube. We've done a lot of stuff with our YouTube channel this year. And actually had, a lot of people watching matches again. Like once we can put them onto YouTube, and so Monday, Tuesday, people coming back to our channels on YouTube and watching the matches there, watching the highlights. So there's lots of different ways of getting our action to people. And we just started doing something with a great company who are now pushing our clips and stuff towards newspapers. So guys have been doing some stuff with us. So we're looking at what are the other opportunities, where are the other places we can get PWR, so that we are getting that awareness, that visibility. So, just keeping growing it.
Now, Fee Thomas has already written that the World Cup's going to the BBC. Fee said so, I didn't. Does that make the conversation easier around getting a free-to-air partner? And how important is that, for example, to your sponsors? So the people who are looking to put their logo next to PWR, do they want to be behind a paywall? Because there are fans who are critical of the paywall and the game being on TNT.
No, I think there's a couple of things in there. I think one is I hear the criticism, but there are some financial considerations in all this too, and we have to make it add up. So what I'd like to try and get to is a position where we potentially have as we have now, some opportunity to watch matches free to air, but also some broadcast revenue in there as well. So I think that's the first one. And I've just gone completely blank.
BBC is taking the World Cup.
We don't know, but I think you'd always have those conversations once that's officially confirmed. If it's officially confirmed, you'd always want to have those conversations. And what are those opportunities? What can we do? I think the BBC is amazing though, because I'm very biased. I used to work there, but because you have the radio, because you have online, there's some other. It has much wider reach. So if that's the case, it'll be very exciting.
Who makes the decisions on what games get put on and when? Because we've had a couple of times where there's been back-to-back fixtures with men's teams or the men's team and then the women's team playing, and the cameras have gone off.
Yeah.
So we had the 4-Ed game at Gloucester at Kingsholm against Leicester, first game of the season. Cameras are all set up there, ready to go, film the men's game, and then so for example, Sam's mum, Neve's mum back in Ireland, they can't watch the game, but the cameras are literally there. And I think as a player, sometimes that's a bit frustrating, because previously we'd be able to play a game on a Saturday, watch the game on the Sunday, and quite often now, unless it's Exeter, Quins or Sarries, you can't watch the game because they're the only ones that live stream. Do you know what I mean? So it's how is there any view to go, if we're playing on a Saturday and then a Sunday, is there view to get both games on, and who makes that call of what games?
Yeah, so the answer is a lot of it comes down to money. Putting on a and you'll know this, putting on a match to broadcast standards is expensive. Yeah. So some of that's about budget. Do we want to try and get more games streamed? 100%. Super Power weekend, we had all 4 matches live, 2 streamed and 2 on TNT, and we'd love that to be the case every single weekend. We're not there financially yet, but we will keep working at it and keep driving that. And I think in terms of which TV matches did we do, we were really late with the TV deal, because I only took my job in the January, so we were always up against everything, because there's a massive. I was employee number 1 for the first 2-3 months. I'm literally, so I think that TV deal came late. This year, we're already having and had the first planning meeting 4 weeks ago. So we're much further ahead with looking at what are the men, where's the men's schedule, where do we want to be, which fixtures are we doing. So hopefully we're much more on the front foot for that this year. So we can actually, as you say, plan better to where there are double headers, how can we capitalise on that. So hopefully that'll be smoother this year. And also, I think TNT are very keen to give us a regular appointment of view next season. So they need to look at all the other things they have the rights to, working out where does everyone fit into
a consistent slot.
Yeah.
So,
So you always would know what
PWR
X
will always
time
be
on
Sunday 3 p.m. for
something
example.
Something like that.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and I think that would help grow our audience as well, because at the minute you do have to kind of play second guess on where we're going to be, because as I say, we were late and they have a lot of sport. So it's kind of where can we fit in? So
I do think that there's a huge opportunity for the women's game to look at our potential audience completely differently to the men's game. I mean, it would be great to get everyone who's watching PRL, the men's premiership, to also watch PWR on TNT, where they are, and to leverage as much of that infrastructure and that audience and that fan base. But the great thing about women's rugby is that it does, when you go to Twickenham and the Red Roses are playing there, attract a massive number of people who don't go near the men's game. Where are you getting to those people, and where are we best serving that audience?
yeah, I think it's a really good point. Actually, we know from Women's Sports Trust research as well that there's an entirely new audience coming to women's sport that doesn't necessarily follow men's sport. So I think, and that's where things like YouTube and social channels, I think, actually play a really important part. So we now have cameras at every single match every weekend, so that we do at least have the tries now from every single weekend, or big incidents depending on what's happened. So the highlights package we now put out every week is a comprehensive highlights package of what happened that weekend. As I said, we're putting longer form stuff onto the website as well. So onto our new website, by the way. Go and have a look.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
It's very cool. I love
Banging,
it.
isn't it?
And also now, if you put Premiership Women's Rugby into the search engine from Google, it does not come up and say Premier 15s anymore.
Amazing.
Which
Nice.
has literally driven me mad.
When
Best
did
part
that
of a
change?
year.
Because
That's one
as I
of
was
my
doing some
bugbears.
prep for
Yeah.
semis,
I
it
think-
still was still Prem
No,
15s.
we quietly went live this weekend, but we didn't.
Fine.
We just wanted to make sure it didn't do anything.
Crash.
Yeah, that's the one. So we'll shout about it for the final, but we'll just
Yeah,
go,
fair enough.
just go
Yeah.
quietly. But it didn't crash, so that's good. So we know. So we can use our website, we can use our YouTube channel,
Yeah.
we can use all our social channels. So I think actually that's a really good starting point. And then it's things like free-to-air games with BBC, and all those things that start to make a difference. And we can structure this all better this year because we'll have a bit of more time to plan.
Now, when I was in Manchester for that game where Katie M and I took our good vibes, Michelle Orange...
It's all down to you, yeah?
Yeah. Michelle Orange told me that they were having some really interesting conversations in the streaming space. And I said to her, the thing about streaming matches for me and turnaround for stuff on digital is that I think the really big gap is to get people at halftime in a match, or even in the beginning of the second half in a match, to push content towards the screens. And the nice thing about digital content is you can reach people where they are right here and say, Jeopardy, massive, this game, like Bristol is beating Saracens, have you heard? Check this try that's just been scored. Here's the link. Go watch it now. It's streaming here. Even if then that's not a free portal, or even if then I have to give you my information in order to sign in and watch that for free. If you're pushing me highlights on tight turnaround halfway through a game, and all you're asking me is to watch for 20 minutes towards the end of a game where I might see something really exciting and interesting, I'm a lot more likely to probably engage with the content than if I see a cut down on Monday afternoon.
I think it's a mixture of both. Because actually, if you look at a lot of our audience, to your point, if you look at that audience at Six Nations, for example, you've got mums and young families who, as a mum of a young family, are not necessarily always sat in front of their TV. So I think the answer is you always want to give I think I absolutely agree with you. And funny enough, Michelle and I got a conversation tomorrow because she emailed me after your chat. So she and I got a call tomorrow about this. So there you go. Now I know where it's come from. Excellent. Always good to be prepared. Thanks. That's fine. Yeah, exactly. Puppet master extraordinaire. Thanks, Emma. So I think, look, I think there's always going to be more. Listen, as a TV broadcaster, I'd love to do so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my safe space. This is my happy place. I'd love us to do more. I also have to just be very boring and very mindful of budgets, and we just have to do what we can do and do it well. What I don't want to try and do is do 55,000 things and not do them very well. So it will grow over time, and that'll be part of it. But there's loads of things we can still do, 100%.
And obviously for the owners, they want to sell stadium naming rights. They want to sell real estate on shirts, the more people who watch their games, if not on TNT, then on their phone screens, the higher the sponsorship value of those properties. What did you want to say?
I wanted to say, if you've got contacts in BBC, do you think you could get them to put it on real telly rather than iPlayer? The real telly for the final.
Well, but that's again, that's really interesting. And actually, I'm much more empathetic probably than lots of other people they talk to are, because I know what scheduling looks like, and it's an absolute nightmare.
Really?
If you go to channels, they have about 55 million requests. I've got to stop using that expression.
700 million.
700 million. Yeah, exactly. But I think scheduling broadcast is really, really challenging, and having just sat down with TNT and PRL for next season even, it's really, really challenging. So it's not that straightforward. But then, interestingly enough, we went on holiday this summer and had one of those TVs that just has apps on it, doesn't have a program guide, which I hated because I like to know where things are on. The two older ones who are 22 and 16 were like, well, it's all on, Mum, obviously, because you just put on the app. And I was like, yeah, but what time do I know? And they're like, just put it on. And I was like, okay, I can't deal with this. But for a lot of people that we're trying to talk to as an audience, they watching it on iPlayer is exactly the same as watching, because they're watching it on their phone anyway, so it makes a difference. So I also have to keep, again, not to do all of this through my own lens, but actually, where's our audience finding us? And a lot of them are online, a lot of them are on their phones all the time. So actually, iPlayer is not
a bad option.
Not a bad option at all, and actually play straight into their
I'm one of those
devices.
people who I don't have a terrestrial TV connection. My TV only has apps on it. Like there is,
Can't deal with that.
I'm so old school.
I've not watched a TV
So you
with
can't
the
record
Gaz goes
anything.
out every other weekend to realign her aerial.
I haven't had a TV
It has
connected.
been really fuzzy recently, I'll be honest.
How do you cope with that? The EPG, the electronic program guide. I mean, that's scroll down. I can't deal with it.
Turns out my life is great, just great without it. But that's the big generational thing. I think.
But that's the point. So we need to be in lots of different places because we're talking to lots of different people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of being in very different places, the number of players who play in this league and the way that it's become the place to play if you are an excellent rugby player from any part of the world is one of the things I love about it. I really feel like I am sitting in the middle of the best possible property. I really enjoy it. I really get so much satisfaction out of seeing so many different people from so many different places competing at the highest level in one league. We're incredibly fortunate to have all of this great women's rugby played right here and in a very drivable country. Can I also just say that?
Good to know.
But we do need to talk about English qualified players. Now, obviously, the focus of the English domestic league at its core, outside of dishing up excellent rugby, the best of the best, is also to create a pathway to breed the next generation of red roses, the girls who are coming into the game. The question that was on Susie Appleby's lips last week in the press conference and over the weekend has been, but at what cost? Because she wasn't able to have several players in her match day squad. You know about this. So, I mean, Belinda, I don't even have to tee this up for you. She wanted to select a number of players.
It once or twice.
The rule is that the average over the season is you have to have 13 English qualified players in your match day squads or you are docked points, right?
Yes, at the end of the season. Yeah.
For the finals, the knockouts, you had to have 13 players in your match day squad, full stop. So semi-final comes, the Chiefs have to have 13 EQP players, full stop. Now, for example, Adele McMahon, who's Ireland's co-captain, is someone that they would have relied on heavily in this game, but they couldn't select because of this ruling. And there is a lot of context here, so I don't want to oversimplify this, but I'm also not from here. And so I think I look at this a little differently. I understand the context and the broader story, but if I'm making contributions to the women's game in my field in my own way for the last 3 or 4 years, and I have dutifully served it all season long, and someone last week said to me, because of injuries to other people in the team, Skazzy can't be on the show, Mo can't be on the show, we're bringing in, other people. Now we need an English qualified host. So we're going to bench you and put Alex Payne here because he's English. I would go, but I've been here all season and I haven't done anything wrong. And I've also been here for the last 4 years. So I've also dutifully been serving this project. So for the person who's in the middle of this, it's really difficult. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people in the middle of the English qualified players story?
I think there's a few things, and I think you're absolutely right. It's quite easy to try and oversimplify it if we're not careful. I think there's a few things. Actually, EQP has existed for a number of years, but there was a very small incentive, and because of the financials in the women's game, it was a very small incentive. So basically, everyone ignored it. So I think there's a couple of things. It is an English league funded by England to grow the pathway, and I think we're particularly mindful of that currently, because I think over the next 5 years, other countries will start to form their own competitions, and some players, not all players, but some players will go back to playing those competitions. So it's really important that we start to create that strength and depth of English rugby. It's also, as you said, it's 13 players of a 23-person squad. So we're not saying you can't have amazing international superstars over here. We're trying to say those are brilliant to have, but we need to have a balance in that. And the third thing in this, and Susie's on it, we have a rugby operations and performance subcommittee of the board. And actually this came up very early on in the season, and actually we're making some changes for next year based on the feedback. So we listen and we're making a number of changes. They go to council on Friday, so I would tell you, but I haven't gotten through council yet, so I won't. But I can come back another day. Happy to do that. But
Skazzy sent us the voice note. She's got the scoop.
Susie outed it on the press conference.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say it.
No, it's
I'm going to leave it there.
Come
That's
on,
all right.
Skazzy, give us the scoop.
Because it hasn't gone to council. So, yeah, let's not. I don't really... I need to get it through council. Let's spoil that,
Tell you
because I was in trouble.
Skaz won't say it if you tell me how many tickets you sold in the final. I'm playing.
No, I'm good. I'm going back to my bridge. Bridge.
Yeah, screen it.
Well played.
But no, we are changing things. We're making some amends to it to make it perhaps function better. Recognising that players get injured, I think would be. I'll leave it at that. But I think it would probably have helped some of the problems Susie had this weekend. But also, look, we will learn things as we continue to grow this league. You know, I'm very open to looking at what's gone right, what hasn't gone as right, what can we do to move things forward, and we'll continue to do that, and in lots of different ways. EQP is one of those, but there are lots of other things that we need to, review as the game starts to grow. So it's on a long list.
Has that been one of the most challenging parts of all this? Because we obviously have so many conversations around it from a playing point of view, from obviously what's happening at our own clubs, what we see. Obviously, it's been incredibly prominent because of the semi-final and Exeter situation. And I find myself just doing this with it because I'm like, you can see all sides. Obviously, Katie, very good friend of mine, Sale, they've obviously been deducting points first half of the season because they've got the exact same problem, but yet they've got to try and put a team out that can compete in a league, and they're really struggling with it. There's so as I say, I just find myself going round and round and round. Like, is it one of the most challenging things to try and figure out? Because there is no right and wrong.
I think the new regulations will make it better. I hope so, because that's the entire point behind them. Otherwise, slightly bad rule change if it doesn't make it any better. I think what we're hoping to do going forward will make things better and is perhaps a better reflection. But I think it's not to say what was set up in the first place is wrong. I think EQP is there for a really good reason. We have to continue to grow that strength and depth within the women's game, and that does mean giving opportunities to English players who,
100%.
There's always that risk otherwise that actually you turn to your superstars and actually those under 20s, under 23s don't get that opportunity, and that's really important too. So I think it's a really fine balance.
I think also if you don't have it, like teams, whoever they are, if they've got the sponsorship and they've got people that are starting to back the women's game, you can just go fishing for more international superstars, and then you almost like lose that bit. Do you think there's ever going to be a point where, obviously the men's game, it's quite a hefty fine, isn't it? It was a little fine before in the women's game. Would it be a case of, as the women's game grows, that moves back to a fine rather than a points deduction in the league? Or is it the points deduction?
No, I think we'll always continue to review sanctions. But you're right. The problem we've got at the moment is we have very blunt instruments with which to try and deal with things that don't go right. Financial penalties aren't the right way to go right now, because this is a really emerging league.
Yeah.
Docking financial money off clubs is not going to solve anything, and there has to be some kind of sanction. So if you look at the options, they are very limited. Yeah. So, a lot of things don't have sanctions on them at the minute because it's not the right way to grow the women's games. There are some things that we feel are more important and therefore they carry sanction, but we're trying to be realistic and pragmatic in those. I think, as I say, we've listened to the club feedback. We've talked to the clubs. We've talked to our CEOs of all the clubs, and we've got to a place where I think we're all quite comfortable with for next season.
Based on what you just said, what would hurt you more, though, points or money? Sorry, I'm asking Mo.
You're asking me?
I'm asking you. As in, like,
What-
you as a player, what hurts you more? Obviously, you don't know the in-depth financial details of your club, but to me, it would be points, surely.
Points, yeah, surely.
Yeah, it's a good question. I hadn't really thought about it. Just thought there's two options, isn't there?
But if you're Adele, if you're the person in the middle of this who doesn't have the
Yeah.
opportunity to play in a semi-final, you're looking at all of this going, guys, hello, like this is my career. This was an opportunity where I could play in a
I'd
semi.
also just flag that the EQP wasn't something that was invented sort of halfway through the season. Everyone went into the season having signed up to be shareholders, knowing this is what it was. And yes, they had fed back even before the season started. They didn't like it, but I inherited. By the time I'd got my head around what EQP was, I mean, I say this all happened very fast before the start of the season. We were where we were for this season. As I said, we've let this season play out. We've looked at all the numbers. We've evaluated where is everybody, where are the clubs, what is what is that EQP across the season, and reacted to that. So I think all you can ever do is do something, and if it doesn't start to work, then you look at it, you work out how to make it better, and you move forward.
I'm a really big fan of Anne's solutions. Not a big fan of the stick, more of the carrots. So the carrot here solution could also be really looking at the championship and turning the championship, the next tier of competition, into such a thriving, such a successful, such a great spectacle that the level of talent that is bursting through there plays international players out of contention.
So the answer is I will defer happily to the RFU on the championship. I've got one league to run at the minute. I think that's quite enough.
Yeah.
But I know that they very much, that is their next piece of focus. They've had to focus on getting PWR set up right. That was the right thing to do. Now, then you start to build the pathways underneath. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And how does that move into our
We've
game?
had a parallel conversation when it comes to race quotas in South Africa in rugby for the last 25 years to death, and the means of which to achieve that level of competitive parity that you're looking for here is often probably a bit of compromise. It's a bit of stick and a bit of carrot at the same time, but also being completely transparent from day one with everyone in the system, which I think what would have made this a lot easier is if all players and everyone involved before they signed contracts with clubs knew exactly what the composition of that club's squad looks like and also what the regulations say, so that you go into it fully knowing.
Yeah, and I think actually that player education and information, I think is something that's really important. And one of the things I want to try and do before the start of next season is to do some kind of web chat, webinar, whatever you want to call it, where we invite the players to come join us online, and we'll basically go through things like EQP and REMCAP and make sure that players do understand why we're doing what we're doing and actually bring them into those conversations, which I think, again, this year we just didn't have the capacity to do it. Next year we can actually bring players in and explain and take them through and take them with us on that journey.
2025. How do you look to make the most of the Rugby World Cup going to be played here? Do you talk to our friends in roundball land, in football land?
So Kelly Simmons is on our board as a board advisor. So 100% talk to people in roundball land and in cricket as well, because they equally have had success in World Cups.
What works? What are the golden rules here?
I think.
Get the home team to win.
Yeah, well, that's
Okay, no pressure.
Let's be frank.
That's on YouTube.
It's funny. I know some people who play for them.
yeah. I think it's that.
Guys, touch wood, please.
She's touching all of the wooden surfaces here. Almo.
Well, it's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
Yeah. You something to carry around with you.
Mordy actually made me a really cute keyring that said touch wood, but it broke. Yeah, but
Let's
it was
get
a
you a new
really
one.
cute. It was a really cute idea because I'm always touching wood whenever someone says it.
We might get to get you a new one.
There it is.
Okay, outside of England winning the Rugby World Cup at home, what are the
Yeah.
other ways in which we can make the most of the momentum?
It's making sure that we have got everything ready to capitalise on that moment. So it's working really closely with our clubs, it's working really closely with the RFU to make sure that as and when and if, just to make Mo happy.
She's touching wood now as well. There we go. We've got Belinda Moore.
If that moment happens, that we have everything ready to go, so that if you were at the final or you've been at any of the matches during World Cup, you know where your nearest club is, that you know how to go and get tickets, or you know which broadcast you're looking for it on, or how to find it to watch it, or where do you go to get the highlights. And we need to make sure there's a massive amount of awareness of where to find it and how to get yourself to your nearest club.
So getting the product to the person who needs to get it, and then getting that person out of their lounge onto grass somewhere.
Well, there's two choices: either out of their lounge or in front of their TV. I don't really mind which way we do it. But I mean, yes, ideally we want more people in stands. We want those big crowds in our stands. But also them going and then saying to their friends, "It was really good. You should come too." And it's that. There's lots of things you can buy or you can set up, but also word of mouth is so important. So if people have had an amazing experience at the World Cup, they then may turn around to their friends and say, "It was really fun, come with us." So it's that ripples effect, is that, you have the World Cup in the middle of it, then you have our clubs, but then you have our fans as well who take that message out. And as you said, do it for other stakeholders, whether it's players in the men's game, whether it's other women's sports, you find those stakeholders to help those ripples spread further and further.
Get your friends from Roundball Land to come over, Mo. Yes?
I will try.
Okay.
Don't have many of those anymore.
No, who was it? Farrah Williams.
Yeah.
Last year at the
you
patch.
and-
You were
yeah.
best mates for like half an hour.
Yeah, and you were pinky promising.
She said she'd come here, so I don't know why.
I'm still waiting.
Where are you?
The amount of best friends Mo has for half an hour on a night out is unbelievable.
I make a new best friend every time, and I think it's probably my toxic trait, but also my most favourite part of the night.
All of the
I'm coming
friends
on
tonight.
night out. We're coming on night out with you now.
Yes,
Be your best friend for half an
I will
hour.
get some answers. Come on.
Yeah, a couple of glasses and wine. I'm anyone's mate.
Speaking of, can we talk about your plan for the Prem final next season, or is that a no-go at the minute?
As in where or when?
Yeah, where?
Or,
Because that is amazing. Or should we just do the little tease?
you
Dangle
have to do
the
the
carrot?
little tease.
Wait, why? Do you know?
No, but we had a conversation about it at the. I don't know if you remember. You were
We
a few
did.
glasses of wine in.
I was, mate. I had to do a podcast the next morning. I was remarkably sober. No, you can't, because
Okay.
we haven't even run that past my board yet. It
Right,
could get me to a
fine.
whole world of trouble if we do
Fine.
that.
Fine.
Why is this country so obsessed with announcing where a final is going to be played before the finalists have been determined?
It is a
Organisation.
really cool
Ticket
idea.
sales, mate. Ticket sales.
Organisation.
Yeah, but-
Oh no, you're talking about 26.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what?
You're,
No,
you're talking about 26
is
on
that-
the beach.
Yeah, but I thought
Yeah.
you were doing that 25
No,
because it's
26.
a venue.
26.
Oh, okay. 2 years time then. I'm way
Yeah.
ahead of the game.
I want to take you to the beach
I'm
in
living in the
26.
future.
The beach.
The
Yeah.
beach? Which beach? Where is the beach?
beach.
I'd love to. It's fine. It's so far away. I was talking about Brighton is one of the venues for the Rugby World Cup, and I was saying it'd be really cool if, because our finals in the summer, if in 26 after the World Cup when they've done some rugby matches, you could take our final to Brighton and have a massive beach party. I thought it'd be so much fun. You know what I
That
think?
would be a lot of fun.
Like
if
a
I'm honest, when I
PWR
heard
heard
on the beach.
party, yeah.
when I
Yeah.
heard
Party on the
beach, I
beach.
went sand and I went Dubai.
Yeah.
Okay, not quite that.
I'm sorry, I don't associate Brighton with beach, but there we go.
All right, you know what I mean, though. Seaside,
Yeah.
kiss
But
me quick cats, that sort of thing.
Don't you want your highest ranked finalists to have a home final
No.
at all costs?
Doesn't work like that here.
we talked about this a lot, because you would only know 2 weeks out.
Yes.
And having seen the amount of planning it's taken to get us to this point, it's practically and logistically, if we want to start attracting really decent sized numbers to our final, it's almost impossible. Also, depending on who the final is, not everyone can host it. So suppose Surrey's had been that club, they can't host
Yeah.
a final in June. So then you're going to a neutral venue with 2 weeks notice, which is really difficult. So the answer is, from a purely pragmatic, I need to sell tickets, need to build up an atmosphere, need to book the Red Devils, whoever it might be, trying to turn a major final round in 2 weeks is not a sensible ask.
Could you do it where
We did look at it.
everyone
We looked at it
preps?
really, really hard after last year.
Could you do it where everyone preps? Do you know what I mean? So partway through the season, no disrespect, Scuzzy, but
I think if I
obviously,
turn around to the legal team and tell them they've got to do 4 different venue agreements, they might sit and cry
Right.
quietly.
right,
URC
so it's
does this.
behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
it's all that sort of stuff.
But the URC does this. So the reason it was always this way in Super Rugby, and the reason it's this way in URC, is because if you have a Leinster-Munster final, but you announced last year that the final is going to be in Cape Town, then you're not going to have any Leinster-Munster fans in Cape Town. So the final venue is only determined when the finalists are determined.
So there's a couple of things. One is we spoke to URC at quite some length. So it's not like we had long conversations with them. We talked to lots of different stakeholders about how we need to do it. I also think you're right. If you're playing an international competition, I think that's really different. We're talking about playing on an England landmass. So
Yeah.
The travel distance wherever we
Drivable.
decide to go is not a massive
Drivable country.
but it's not so impossibly far to travel. So I think when we sat down, having gone through some of the stuff that URC do, I say, because we did look at it, because it was my thought after the final last year, the cons outweighed the pros in terms of what we could achieve, in terms of ticket sales, in terms of all sorts of things we wanted to do with the venue, is almost impossibly difficult. You can do it in 2 weeks flat, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's, and you lose some things as a result of it.
Personally, like from a playing point of view, I know it was a home final in the end, but to run out in front of that crowd, like to jog around when the shed was screaming Gloucester, like everything like that will stick with me as one of my lifelong, like most favourite rugby memories. Is right up there with the World Cup, like genuinely is right up there with the World Cup win. And like, I just hope and pray that we get people that travel down, because I think, like, from a playing point of view, you want to be in the packed out stadiums, you want that atmosphere, you want that crowd. And
100%.
so many of the Exeter guys came up for that final as well. So I think proof will almost be in the pudding this weekend. And maybe we can have another conversation after that, like to see how well this goes. And hopefully, like I said, we'll be sat here and it will be the best one we've ever seen. And the crowd will be as big as it's ever been. And the atmosphere is going to be insane as well. But I genuinely think that, like, we'll have a really, really interesting comparison from the two of those.
I 100% with you. I think it'd be really interesting to see, as you say, your fans travel well, Bristol's fans travel well.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think there's also a context in this. If you look at what the numbers for the final in the year before you won, people were really happy with getting sort of 3,000 or 4,000 people there. We'll definitely get more than that by some margin.
Yeah.
But, normally the growth line goes like this, and because of last year and because it was a home final, it went like that. Can we sustain it there completely the next year? Don't know. But we're going to work really, really hard.
To see.
In a perfect world, I want to better those numbers. So, we'll wait and see what we get to. But that's the objective. But I'm also not going to make that the only metric by whether we think the final's been a success.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think we can set you free now, because we've only held you captive here in our dungeon and grilled you for the last hour.
It gets
and a
hot
half.
in here, doesn't it? They have to turn the aircon
Yeah.
off. It does get warm in here.
Skazzy's blushing, but not
Always.
because,
Constantly.
Saturday, the 22nd of June at Sandy Park, 3 p.m. kickoff on TNT and the BBC. Skazzy and Mo will both be on your screens in different guises. Skazzy with the good makeup and Becky with the good hair. Tickets to the final and our live show is in the description of our YouTube video. Thank you for coming down, Belinda, and answering all of our questions and letting us grill you.
Thank you very
So
much.
I tell you what, if you have him back in a few weeks' time, I might even answer some of them this time.
Yeah, that's the
Oh my
thing.
goodness. She's coming back. She wants to be our friend.
I didn't say that.
We'll see you at the final. We're also doing a show on the pitch after the game. We are recording our last part of the year there. So maybe we can get some more out of Belinda then.
With or without
might do.
me.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
And
Might
maybe
have had a couple of glasses of wine by then, you'll be all right.
and we might have Mo in our ski goggles.
Ski goggles.
Right, do we think we need to get loads of them or what?
Do you know?
I don't want to jinx it.
No.
Can you buy them for me?
So I
Money
was
bags.
really interested in, obviously, the men's final at the weekend, because obviously all the Northampton boys had them and they were all matching. And I was like, have Sun God just sent a load and they've been put in the middle and then the winning team has been, do you know what I mean?
Is it Sun God?
They were all Sun God ones, I think.
At Sun God.
At Sun God. Sort a brother out. Or,
That's you sorted then.
Yeah.
That's them sorted.
or have both teams, because it's a thing, isn't it? Have both teams
Why
preemptively
is it
taken
a
them?
thing? I don't really understand. Is it like is it a practical thing to stop champagne going in your eyes because that hurts? That
Yes.
stings? Or is it
Please comment down
or is
below.
it like a we're really cool thing? Because I don't really get it.
I don't
get
think
you
it's
orange
a
ones.
weird, really cool thing.
It's just a bit weird.
Well, it's a thing, isn't it?
But
It's a boy thing, I think.
Is it a boy thing?
I don't know. But I mean,
Sun
yeah.
God, can you
Aussie
make us
Sevens, the-
orange ones?
Women did it, I think. What did they win? Everything recently.
Everything. Yeah, I was going to say Robert did. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much for joining us, Belinda. Here we go, Almo.
Guys, before we go.
Wait. It gets better.
Oh, what? Better than the scrunchie?
Well, I'm really excited about seeing Belinda wear the GSR scrunchie. But since I've just come back from Sicily,
Oh,
shut up.
Yay, presents.
I brought you the
It
most
was just a
touristy
hat.
scrunchie and our scaz.
There we are.
Since you love wearing a bucket hat so much,
I love this.
full brand.
Very cool.
I mean, it is the loudest bucket hat that has ever bucket hatted.
Oh yeah, that does it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
That makes
Little
all the
folder.
difference.
Yeah.
Outfit sorted for the final.
Perfect.
Thank you, Bosh.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, Belinda.
It's been fun.
We look forward to seeing you rock the scrunchie.
I'm putting
Do
it
you
on
want
for
to
the
put it
final.
on now? Are you, eyebrows. Do you know what eyebrows means? It means if you don't, you have to shave your eyebrows.
She's in her blazer, yet she's still at university.
shot.
We've been The Good, The Scaz, and Rugby, brought to you by Vodafone. The Good, The Scaz, and Rugby is a folding pocket production produced by
Shira Kilgallen.